My name is Har. I'm a cloud analyst at Microsoft. We work together, same team with John. John did a great talk on the OpenAI large language model. So this is my talk about scaling that in the kind of enterprise setting. So kind of a few things I want to go through. My observation is kind of that language model and the challenges that we see in implementing that in the enterprise environments. Quick introduction to semantic kernel as I wouldn't say a complete solutions, but it's dealing with some of the challenges that will be highlighted. And then a quick demo on a Neo4j that I did for one of the customer in terms of demonstrating the capability and the scaling ability of the large language model. So yes, Microsoft, yes, we released lots of Copilot for M365, Bing Chat, GitHub Copilot, all of that things. Dolly image generator, my wife loves that. Absolutely love it.
Sort of took over my Power Automate screen today. It never been there before.
Yes, exactly. And then because there's a kind of this wave of generative AI that coming at the moment. Everybody get excited about that. Everybody see this kind of product, the demos and inspiration and so on. And one of the most common questions that I've been asked is how do I build this similar experience with my old data? How do I bring that into my enterprise, in my company? How do I offer value to this? And yes, that's probably one of the most common questions that we, or part of some of my customer asking me, how do I do that? There's a so like how did you using OpenAI or OpenAI API? What's the difference between OpenAI API to Azure OpenAI services? How do I use large language model and what can I use it for? But yeah, this is still the most important kind of most common questions. Over time, relatively very short time since we have the exposure to ChatGPT and OpenAI services, there's a few challenges I'm seeing. The first one is memory. So large language model is stateless. So you feed it. If you watch the talk from John, if we have another recording. You feed that with some text, it will then generate with some other text, right? It doesn't have any memory what happened before that. So the experience that you see, things like Bing Chat, you have a conversation with them. That's kind of a illusion. It doesn't remember what you asked it. Just before that, it doesn't remember any of that. It obviously have no remember who you are and what context you're in. So we do have kind of a solution for that. Things like you'll probably be heard so many times, the rack patterns, vector database, embedding, all of that good stuff. The second challenge is non-deterministic, so there's a randomness to it. So you ask the same questions, you don't get the same answer. Now, very recently, OpenAI have introducing kind of a ceiling into their API, so then you can have a more deterministic answer, which is great because then you know what's coming. So training cutoff. So all the large language model trained to up to a certain amount of time. Anything after that, it doesn't know. So one of the example Jones did last month, we were asking question who is the monarch of UK, I believe, and it still answered the Queen. Obviously, that's no longer true anymore. So. But yeah, so how do we apply large language model in the enterprise level, but with the more up-to-date data, but even more so, lots of people asking, how do I apply these data with my current data or near real-time data? The fourth challenge I call out here is side effect. So yes, you can generate some text, you can generate some kind of a IP picture image. What are you going to do with it, right? So you need to have some kind of side effect to interact with that different systems. How do you interact outside of this large language model? So then once you have all of that things together, how do you orchestrate them together, and how do you orchestrate different AI capabilities together? So you have the Bing Chat, you have the different chatbot. How do you bring these capabilities together? And that's all of this challenge. So we have all of these challenges, and we have These actually a few screenshots of different large language model application within the Microsoft product suite. So you can have Copilot for Windows, GitHub Copilot, Copilot for PowerPoint, and the last one is Copilot for Teams. Right. So they are similar. They're similar. They cover chat interface, but they address different things. Right. And data coming from very different places. So for Bing Chat Enterprise, that coming from Bing. Copilot is trained on the open source data, and then it takes some of the context from your workspace. The Copilot PowerPoint take basically your prompt and some of the suggestions that you have on your slides. And the last one is the Copilot on Teams. Is basically based on the transcript of the meeting that you have or the meeting, etc. So they're all using kind of a different data. They have different capability as well. So PowerPoint is more about generate the picture, some text to get your slides up. For Windows is more about searching for things that you search on a search engine, but also interacted with the operating system, such as turn the volumes on or extend to a different monitor kind of interactions. Now, and I don't have an example here, obviously, but what I'm observing is lots of people doing within a company, because this is very new and everybody doing POC, lots of POC, and they're doing relatively similar thing, but in the isolations. So everybody will go away, and then within a company, I see that many different teams say, "Oh, I'm excited about OpenAI. I want to try it out." They do, I want to make a chat interface, implement some kind of a web front end that take the chats in, doing the same pattern, right? Then I have to address all the cross concern in terms of logins, authorization, authentication, etc. From engineering, everybody have to learn from engineering to make sure that they can make the best use of the large language model. How do you manage, section store, the messaging, conversation together? And that become a bit of a pain point because everybody doing similar things and duplicate the efforts. Microsoft itself admitted that internally we have the same problems. Yeah. So therefore, the conversation, actually, this coming from the office of the CTO, and that's why kind of a Semantic Kernel kind of exists. So Semantic Kernel is a lightweight open source orchestrations development kit. It has the capability to then mismatch AI prompts and foundation model together with the language such as C#, Python, and I think recently we have Java support as well. So a couple of things to call out. The first thing is abstraction from the foundation model. So obviously we have the OpenAI ChatGPT 3.5 4 model, but it doesn't have to be. You can be using different foundation model as well, and that basically gives you that abstractions. It has the memory. So things that we have to do with the memory, such as storing the conversation that we're having with the large language model, all the data that we have within the enterprise. How do we chunking them? How do we search for them? How do we do the embedding? Is have that. So in here, it call out is you can using Azure Connected Search, but you can also using Azure Cosmos for Postgres, and I think recently there'll be announcement for MongoDB as well. And then it had with the side effects. So how do we interact it, from the AI application to other things such as calling out to a different API or retrieving data from a different API. Yeah. And then one thing they didn't call out here, right at the center, but here, there is the orchestrations capability. So with the planner to then bring everything together. So the first thing is few key concept within Semantic Kernel is plugins. It's basically that is a kind of a very good description of what it is. I didn't create that, so but it's quite a good one. So the core building block of the Copilot and AI-driven applications. So what is plugin? So plugins is a group of function that can be exposed to AI app and services. And then these functions can be orchestrated to basically accomplish whatever the user requested. So with Semantic Kernel, you can invoke function manually, or you can leave the planner to do it for you.
When you say function, you mean Azure function or just function?
There we go. There comes a bit to it. Yes, I come into that. There are two types of function. As I mentioned, you can basically leave the AI, the orchestration to then do the mix and match of the plugin together. So, for example, if you say if you have a task plugin and then you have a calendar plugin, and you say, "Can you remind me to buy milk when I go out at 8 o'clock?" for example, then it created a task to buy the milk, and also created something on the calendar to say 8 o'clock, do something. And I would like to quote this one, Spider-Man, great power comes with great responsibility, because you leave the orchestration capability to the AI, right? So then there's why they may be, in a way, the planner can then combine these plugins in a way that you're not intended to, or you didn't in planning for that to happen. So therefore, testing them, make sure they work, is very important. Right, so as I said, it's planner. Yeah, there you go. It's planner is the magic that combine plugin together to accomplish the user goal. And where does that position first? So it's positioned somewhere about here. So you got the foundation model, you have the AI infrastructure, and then on top you got all of these plugins you created, and you got the core pilot, which is kind of a things that are available, and how you combine together. That's where the AI orchestration coming in. So the planner is basically a function that user asks, and then it's going to return a plan, and then it's going to present that plan to the user, and then the user will decide, okay, should you execute that plan or not. It's a powerful concept. Basically, if you think about it, it's like a chef. So I got the pepper, I got the tomatoes, I got the pasta, and if I come and ask them I want a bolognese, then they probably had to call another function to get the beef and then make them up as a bolognese. That's basically that's the idea of the planner. Yes, and I think to call out, great power comes great responsibility. Make sure that you tested it. So there are two types of planner that are available out of the box with Semantic Kernel, and it kind of a different in generation. And I think there is another generation coming up as well. Which I mentioned. It's not in slide, but I mentioned that. The generation one is the action planner. So you have a lot of capability, and you give it a request. You then choose one of these plugin or function that basically trying to accomplish the goal. The second generation is the sequential planner, which is the one that I'll demo later. So it's more like, okay, I want to have a bolognese. I have a step-by-step sequence of things I want to do to make my bolognese. I then executed that step. Hopefully I got a bolognese at the end. And then the third generation is a stepwise planner. Now, this is an interesting one. So for example, once you have a sequential planner, it just executes that plan when you accepted it. But for the stepwise planner, it's different. So you think, right, okay, in order to make the bolognese, I will then have to get a tomato, I have to get all the ingredients, etc., and make it available. And then I cook it. However, when I get into my tomato, I find my tomato is rotten. Then there's actually observation, there's some thought that the planner will have to think, right, okay, now I don't have my tomato anymore. I'll then have to go and buy the tomato. Right. And that's kind of the orchestration for the generation 3. And I think this is my personal humble opinions. There's a generation 4 coming up. So there's an idea of the agents. So agent is when you create this plugin, you create this AI app, but and then they do a special thing. So for example, to extend your example, and you can have an AI app that basically becomes your broker. You can have an AI app that do the chat. But how do you combine them together? And I think that's the next kind of a generation 4, where you have all this capability how did you talk together, and how did you orchestrate this agent together? Quite interesting thing.
I spent a large part of 1999 at the University of Southampton with a load of guys that had invented a platform for intelligent agents. They go and do travel agent bookings and all of this kind of thing, and it never went anywhere. But this is very much the same thing 20 years down the line.
Well, that's the thing. I think this is what I was debated between myself to say, should I including kind of slide ChatGPT for this talk? And one of the things that is called out in history, this is not a new thing, but it really caught on. It starts from the idea to then actually become useful, and then people will start getting excited about it, and that's kind of the tipping point. For your point, it could be we're coming toward that.
I think it's probably like, another iteration, one that's much more likely to succeed than the one that's
It could be, yes. I can't tell you the future. I wish I do. I would ask the SharePoint which one go up, but no.
Which one are we on now, did you say? We're on generation 2 now?
We are, so like the stepwise panel is already out of the box for semantic panel, so it's already there. Yes. So there's a lot of conversation about autogens, even something like frameworks such as AutoGPT, if I remember correctly, trying to accomplish kind of at the Gen 4 in my thinking. Okay, how do you combine these agents together? And it's quite a good thing because in each of us is an agent, right? We think, we memorize things, we have different capability. Individually, we do a lot of good stuff, but if we have a team together, we can actually accomplish a lot more. So, right, so this is kind of a overview of semantic kernel architecture. In the application, you got the semantic kernel, you got the controller, the orchestration, and sitting here. We registered lots of skill or plugin registry. So basically tell, okay, here are all the capability that I have for you to use. There are two types, semantic function or native function. So semantic function is the differences between what is that useful. So semantic function is basically skill that you're using large language model to then accomplish the task. Where native functions is things like math or calling another API. And all of these functions can then using memory. So that could be as you're going to serve progress. So in my example, in the demo, it actually is just a file system basically capture the memory of the conversations. But semantic kernel do have plugin for cognitive server, and I think for Mongo as well. So that's kind of the different things. So what I try to hopefully demo with both of them. But basically this is a flow of how semantic kernel works. So you give it a prompt, asking a question, talk to it, you recall the memory. This memory could be the conversation that you have so far, give it some context, or the memory that you need to retrieve, like the documents, something that you think is relevant. It then creates a plan by combining all of these semantic kernel and semantic function and native function together. You create that plan, give it to you. You say yay or nay. You can execute that plan to get the outcome.
And before this existed,
So
before this kernel existed, what were people doing with it? Everyone running around the office with their hair on fire, was very stressed, or what is this? Any change people's lives?
Come back to this slide.
Sorry.
This is where everything kind of held together. Before this semantic kernel, then everybody was then implementing a variation of a RAG pattern.
Individual. So this brings all of that together.
Yeah. And then what I found, actually didn't realize, the reason I want to bring this out is actually I see it in practice where in the same organization, multiple teams will then do a bot, a conversations bot using large language model. And the outcome of this, if you don't have any control, if you don't have any strategy bringing the LLM together, you will then end up with 20 bots. Yeah.
Right.
So the idea is you should have as many
with their own bits of custom
services. Yeah. Don't build many bots. Build lots of the plugin.
Yeah.
And then you can use the same bot.
So missed at the start. Is there some like where do you get hold of this? Is there some GitHub or something?
Yeah. So semantic kernel is open source, so you can contribute to it and look at it. New get packages.
A company would have to say, whoa, stop doing it individual. Let's deploy Semantic Kernel. Let's do a centralized service or something like that. Someone's got to put the hand up in that company and say, this doesn't feel right.
Yes, because if you don't, and in some of the customers I work with, it's already happened. I can tell that in some company that I having there's like 4 or 5 bots that
Are they actually creating like semantic kernel team or departments and funding it and so on?
I wish I was a CEO and get paid as a CEO or not, but I think it is a quite pivotal for any organization that if they want to harness the power of AI in this new way, they should have a strategy, and they should avoid having lots of these bot that.
I wonder if finance drives it. Finance said, they've got all these teams doing separate things. It's costing me too much money. How do I solve this?
The thing is, you might not know though. That's the thing. It's it's true. And then the things you would then and then if you don't, so how do I discover this bot? You then have a bot. You then have something like a bot discovery service. I don't know.
Very bad data getting out of the company and even internally. So before deploying Copilot and lots of things, we're actually locking data down left, right, and centre. So
Yeah.
I work in cybersecurity, so
Yes.
we're a little worried. But we worked with our Centre of Excellence for AI to put together a strategy
Yes.
of how are we going to use AI. We're a huge data company, so we want to use AI. But we've said you can't do it until you lock down, put a proper security model in,
Yeah.
so that the data we don't want available is locked down.
Yeah.
That's interesting. You said Centre of Excellence for AI, so that's interesting.
We have
Yeah.
I work in big global companies.
Yeah, yeah.
We have a Centre of Excellence for AI. They put together a strategy
Yeah.
for chatbots. All
So
of
they're
that.
the body's going to say, hey guys, let's look at Semantic.
We've helped them write the security policies and said, you can go once you've done some foundational work around locking teams down, SharePoint sites,
Mhm.
everywhere all that very sensitive company data is.
But it is true. But it's true.
We've got all sorts of stuff out there.
Yes, it is.
Until we get some basic foundations in place,
Yeah.
and you can go for it. Just
It is a too new field. It's too new for everyone. So therefore, everyone will try something. Everyone will come up with some videos.
and working with you to use it in a company. We just
Yeah. So and I actually got a slide to this. Semantic Kernel is not the only option out there. There's plenty other orchestrations that you can use as well. And the good thing about with Semantic Kernel is not, it doesn't tie you up to a foundation model. I think this basically slide recording out. So you don't have to using OpenAI to do this. You can change to something else. I can like to make this, for example, or to make the Copilot here, or the Bing chat. The actual implementation of this, on top there are additional layer on top of Semantic Kernel, a lot more to it to enter in order to offer the experience that you see on Bing Chat today. Right, where are we? I've done this one. This bit. To that bit. Oh, nice. Demo time.
So just on that
Yeah.
previous one, learning friend at the back, his wonderful talk last time, he was talking about when he was using AI, that's the your question, it then tokenized that,
Mhm.
and you basically charged on the number of tokens you've got.
That's right.
You're using. First one there, recall memory.
Mhm.
That sounds like that's just stacking up a hell of a lot of token use before you even get started.
Oh, okay. So recall memory, depending on what it was. But let's say you recall the conversation that you have with the Copilot so far, that doesn't pull out to any large language model, doesn't give you tokens. Or another one is to basically calling to connected search to retrieve your document internally. That doesn't cost you any token. Now, John is right. You bring that memory and then you feed that to large language model. Then you feed more token to it. So it will be the context of what you are chatting with it right now. plus the document plus your questions into the large language model, rather than just your question. So yeah,
Presumably, when they set the price for a token, they have to factor in.
I'm sure there are
They can't make
plenty
it
clever
too
people that will think about what is the right pricing model. I'm not one of them. Don't blame me. Don't shoot them.
Like flat or multiply
Don't shoot it. Yeah. But then this is the things, right? So more power and that's the things. So I mean, last week or maybe a few days ago, OpenAI made an announcement for the GPT-4 Turbo, where they can expand their token window to be much bigger than what they are today. Like you can add, up to 300 pages. That's what their quote is, right? To your prompts. And that's quite significant things. You don't want to add everything in because the models have been trained with lots of data already. You just want to add the relevant data that you need to solve the problems.
When you use Azure version of OpenAI,
Say again, sorry?
when you use Azure version of OpenAI,
Mm-hmm.
does that have like a fence to data sharing?
Yes.
Other Azure?
Well, so in terms of, okay, if you want to kind of the confidentiality, Microsoft do public kind of, yeah, we don't use your data for training, blah, blah, blah. That is publicly available. But yes. Yeah. Anyway, so yes.
To get rid of that.
So basically, the gist of it is, your data is your data. Microsoft don't own your data. Your data is your, right. So
Your question, David.
yes, we don't use that.
So when you state this, when you've asked the question, you've got the results. That state is not stored away anywhere to be retrained in the model.
Yeah.
With ChatGPT, that's the whole point of it. It is with Azure OpenAI, because you're trying to isolate the data. You never, your questions never retrain the model. It's just designed that as well.
On the public Azure, this can be used for your government.
Right. Yes. I can't comment on conspiracy theories, so no, can't do that. Right. Where are we? So demo, right? So before I start the demo, just quickly kind of go through why does it come about. So what we so on a conversation we're having with customers, so like, okay, they having basically they want to manage all their assets, physical assets, and they want to make sure that they have a digital twins of that. So they have to basically, okay, this is a table, this is a chair, this is a room, map them all together and relationship between all of these assets together. And then they decided to go with Neo4j as a database to store the relationship, or store the asset and the relationship together. They once they can store to it, now they want to make use of it. Now they paying some people a lot of money to basically consultants. So basically, well, the feedback, the consultant actually have to learn Neo4j cycle queries and then actually help them to do the job. So we come around and say, right, okay, what if the hypothesis was, what if large language model can do exactly that? You describe what you want from the database, and then it go and then it basically do it's trying to understand the schema of the database, which is like so, and then generate a cycle query, which is the language for Neo4j to query what you want. Yeah. Now, so you can see in here just a few examples. In this particular schema, you have the product, supplier, category, you got order, customer, purchase and order. So this particular product, this employee sold this order, and this employee belongs to this territory and this particular region. Yeah. So yes, in order to, let's say, if you want to ask, tell me all the order had been sold in region 3, for example, you have to basically establish a relationship with John in SQL term. these apps, right? You have to understand that schema to generate the cipher query. Now, so let's do some demo. Hopefully that works.
Great, boss.
Right, okay, cool. So when I started this, I'm not a front-end developer, all right? So JavaScript for me is like, making this chart interface will be like, gonna take me years, not gonna do that. Anyway, so I say like, so that is why kind of I come to the idea, right? Okay, why do I have to develop this chat interface again and again? I shouldn't, and no one should, right? It's the same. It's a chat. I don't earn any kind of a hoorah for making a chat. So that's why I come to that. Okay, yes, you shouldn't have to do this again and again. It's just a waste of effort. So let's say if it asks that same questions. Okay. Now, I do have. I was having issue with rate limit, so maybe I have problems in a bit now. So I asked the questions, and it generated some cyber query, right? I actually have. So as you can see there, it's translate my statement. So that, okay, yes, because it. So okay.
Can you query the 4J database to get all the orders sold in region where region ID is 3?
You can have a name, but anyway. So, but this is where actually it demonstrates the power of large language model. It's basically translate my intent to a valid cipher query. Yeah, it is a valid cipher query, and I actually have it here somewhere. So I got a Neo4j. Oh wait, no. Yeah. And move it over. Actually, let me see that. Yeah. So you can see that Neo4j's database, and I think this is the same query that it generated. So run this one, and it failed. And the reason it failed is the relationship is not in the database. As you can see there, the schema that I showed you earlier, there's no link between order and region, right? You have to go to order employee who sold it, who belong to a territory, who then belong to a particular region. It doesn't have that context. It cannot work it out. It does generate a valid cipher query, but it's not useful for me. So what we did, we actually created a plugin. The plugin is effectively got two functions. So I mentioned before is we have two functions. Right. So I'm not going to run it now, but the first function is a native function. So this one is a get Neo4j get schema. So this one is basically just a normal C# function calling into the Neo4j. What it does is call it effectively call this one to get the schema. Yeah, so it basically get this. How do I tell this one? Yeah.
So what query language is it using?
Cipher. Yeah. It effectively give you these schema. So that is a native function. So I mentioned before, native function that you call an API, or you query data from somewhere, or you do a interaction with other system. And then I have another function which is a native function, which is this one actually calling to take a Neo4j schema, pass into it, and then pass it to the large language model, and then generate the schema based on the grounding that I put in, based on the schema that I provided. Okay. And now the other bit so we have this function. We have then to declare this is the declaration for the plugin. Right, so two things called out. That's a JSON, it's an endpoint. This is so Microsoft adopted chat OpenAI plugin specification. This is their specification. You got the name for the model. Name for the model is what the the large language model to then gonna use. And the name for human is for us to read. And then this one is description for model, description for human. Now, it's exactly the same. The key thing is basically explore and tell it, okay, if you want to interact it with this data, go to this API and this endpoint. This is the swallow that you've seen earlier, just like any open API that you have. And then some declaration, the logo, in contact email, but that's all it is. Very simple. Yeah, you can call it if you want. Yeah, yes. It's about endpoints demo. It's nothing to it. Yes. So yes, if you want, you can call it. But yes, you can have authorization here. Yeah. And there. So in the new assistant API that OpenAI released last week or a few weeks before, they can actually do a call to then generate the token, which then generate the authentic token for your API as well, which is quite cool. Right, so how am I for time?
Starting to run out if we're going to do the quiz.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So
We could just not do the quiz.
So what I need to do. So remember, this chart. I haven't done any of these charts, right? This chart is already open source. You can just find it, get it. I didn't do any of these. I don't claim for credit for it. I just do this, and I write the functions. I add my plugin in. I get a nice logo for it, hopefully. And it works. Now I can't remember what I need to do, and I think I do this again. The same questions. Now you can see that, oh, it understand, oh, I have a plugin, hopefully, it then pass that plugin, the description I give it to the planner. The planner thinks, oh, okay, I have two functions, and then it knows to chain it together in the correct order. The first one is to get the schema. The second one is to pass the schema into the other functions. And then tell me, well, okay, yes, that's what I intend to do. Would you like to proceed? And okay, yes, proceed.
What did you go?
Say again? Where's the
joke API? The joke.
Oh, the Joe API is a built-in one. That's sorry. Now you can see that they give me a different query altogether now, and you can see that it's respected relationship of the schema where the region is either 3 in this region, in this territory, the employee sold the order. That's completely different to the original one that I had. And now it's there. So
You're going to run that query now.
oh, that's well, this is I have to play the demo card. I know the query that I normally get, which is not the same. But on the interest of the people who kind of interest, yeah, let's try it and make it happen and see that way. What do I do? It's a person here. So hopefully it works. Right, so the gist of the story is that yes, yeah, it works. So you're grounding the data correctly. You do put the plugin. You don't have to do any chat interface. You can demonstrate the value of a large language model. Yeah, and to everybody. Right, cool. So what is the message that I would like you to take away? It's this. So yes, you can see this is the kind of a screenshot I have, and you can see the query is not the same. So yes, the non-deterministic nature of it, that's where it's come. Yeah, so a few things to take away is this. Please don't implement 10 chat experience, all of this cross-concern point engineering. Please don't do it. Because if you do it, you waste your effort. If you're using these particular plugin approach, it accelerates your evaluation of your OpenAI. Is obviously once you have the kind of a single chat interface, all of your cross-concerning will be shared. From engineering, authentication, authorization, all of that will be available for you. And one of the key things I want to quote at this point is leverage existing API. So as the organization and you work in data, you probably know that you have lots of API that expose data within the company already. Effectively, what you could have done is to basically front it with the JSON file that I mentioned earlier as a plugin, and then the AI can then understand your data. Then you can use that one for the plugin to then call it to your API, and then interact with the data straight away. So instead of you have to then ingest the data into cognitive search, store the data somewhere, embedding all of that work, you can just say, here's my API, front that with the plugin, import that into the chat. Boom, that's job done.
It's interesting. A lot of people say that some of the blockers is actually bringing the data to the language model, doesn't it?
Yes.
You're just saying, I'm bringing a language.
You don't. Well, that's a very good approach. I'm not saying there's one way of doing it. The alternative way is you can just say fund it with a plugin, and then you import that into. So what I did on not showing here was I have API management that fronting normally my API, and then just basically have an endpoint that basically I hard coded the endpoint to return the JSON, and then on that plugin declaration, I just point it to the Open API, the Swagger file of my existing API already, and then that's it. That's all I need to do. And then I import that into the chat pilot, which I even don't have to write myself. And then that's how it linked together. Quite a good proposition if you think about it. Yes. And once you've done your plugin, you can bring it to everywhere, because this is a plugin that basically standardized between Microsoft, OpenAI, and so on. So you can use that in Bing Chat, you can use it in other things that basically accept these particular plugins. And all of that contribute to faster time to market, which means, I think, good for everyone. Right. So yes, Semantic Kernel is not the only one. LangChains definitely is the kind of well-known one. Status again as well. There's a lot of database out there that basically do vectorized database, size effect, etc. And you don't have to using OpenAI more foundation model. You can using Hugging Face, Llama 2 if you want. But yes, they're not the only one. Other worth meant to mention AutoGens, AutoGPT as well. That's I think it'd be interesting. And that's it for me.
Okay.